couple of people. I just told you who Father Dent was. We have another gentleman here by the name of Andy Sandlin, who's the senator in this district. Don't see anyone else. Is there any other legislator? Oh, Magic Porter from the Hillborough district. No one heard what I said, and the old battle axes. I don't know why they selected me, probably because my speeches are very short. Usually thank you and something.
As we should be.
I would like to take at this time introduce a gentleman that I've known for many years, a good friend of law enforcement. As you know, I've been a law enforcement officer for 56 years now. And he's always been there to help us, and anything that's been requested of him, he's taken care of. Charlie Bass, Congressman from the 2nd District.
Just want to thank you all for being here tonight. I will raise my voice. If anybody can't hear me, just raise your hand and I'll pick it up again. I want to say three things to begin with, and I want to have a discussion. We're going to go until 8 o'clock or thereabouts, and I look forward to these events. There are going to be people who get up and say that I haven't cast a vote in my life that they supported, and others that say I've cast one or two, and there'll be none of you that said I did everything right. I'm not surprised about that. I want to say, first of all, that it is an enormous privilege to be able to represent you all once again in the United States Congress. These are very, very interesting times for America. There are lots of big decisions that we face. We face them as a nation, not as Republicans or Democrats or New Hampshire people or 2nd District people, but as Americans. And I ran for Congress because I thought that I was needed to try to make a difference. I am worried about where America is today. I'm worried about the slack economy. I'm worried about the deficits. I'm worried about unemployment. I'm worried about where America will be when my son, Jonathan, who's 17 years old, and my daughter, Lucy, who's 19, finish with school and are trying to get into the workforce, trying to start a family, trying to do what I did and all of you did at one time or another. If I hadn't won the election last fall, I would have died a happy man, because I made an effort to make things different. Now today we face some really tough issues. I voted for a budget some 4 or 5 days ago that seeks to turn spending around in this country. A budget is not a law, it is a recommendation, it is a plan. And the plan is not signed by the President, it's passed by the Senate, but it forms the basis upon which the committees that have jurisdiction over various things do their work. In the case of appropriations or discretionary spending, which by the way is only now about 33% of the total budget, that's what we will be doing during the summer. The Energy and Commerce Committee, upon which I serve, will have primary responsibility for Medicaid, Medicare Part B and Part D, and some other aspects of environmental law and so forth that are in the budget. This is going to be a critical year. We must, however, as Republicans and Democrats, be willing to work together. We have very different ideas about which direction our country should go. I feel very strongly that if we don't cut the soft growth of government, our country is basically ruined. And we may disagree about how we get there, but I think we can all agree that these gigantic deficits are unsustainable. And I will do whatever I can to make sure that we turn America around, get it going once again in the right direction, and then I'll be doing something else. But I'm here because I care about the economy, I care about jobs, and I care about making Washington work better. So, having said that, I think we're going to start with the discussion. I really don't want to spend half of this period talking about what I want to do. Go ahead. Go ahead, Walton, and you can call it.
I'll try to hit everybody at least once
by the way, if somebody has an opinion, this is not, pin the tail on the donkey. Ask me a question, I'll make a comment. If somebody else has a thought about it, I want to hear from you. Oh, one other little housekeeping thing. These cards, if you're willing to fill them out, that would be great. Rather than have a sign-up sheet, pass them.
Yeah, Congressman, I was,
So hold on just a second. I have a question about the card. Matt, can you answer this question? Yeah. What, say again?
Well, there's a place for questions on the card, so I wrote out a couple of questions, and I didn't know if we're gonna pass it in, we're gonna go through them.
If you don't get your question answered, pass those in and we'll make sure your question gets an answer after the meeting.
Go ahead, sir.
Hi, I'm Mike Bradley from Hillborough. And my concern with the Medicare voucher system, which was on the Ryan budget, which you voted for Friday, I'm okay because I'm 61, but my son is going to want to retire some short decades from now. And by introducing the voucher system, essentially we put medical care for the elderly into private hands. Automatically there is a profit margin which right now stands at about 30%. It doesn't help for at all. So I'm just wondering your rationale for supporting that.
Well, first of all, it's not a voucher. A voucher is defined as when you get a piece of paper that's worth something and you go out and buy a healthcare policy. What they are proposing in their plan is that there would be a form of premium support. The government itself would buy the healthcare policy. And by the way, currently the government already contracts with private healthcare insurance providers for Medicare. It's not done any other way. Cross Blue Shield is a Medicare provider, so that those margins are already in the Medicare system. The difference is the government now provides a subsidy to the healthcare provider. What guides the pricing for healthcare costs is healthcare insurance premiums across the board, with possible exception for some facets of Medicaid. So by having a system that provides for competition amongst various healthcare providers to get the premium market, it's estimated by CBO that there will be savings. But as you rightfully pointed out, this does not apply to anybody who is over the age of 54. And secondly, obviously, logically, it doesn't take effect for 10 years, because it'd be 10 years before people 54 years old would be 65. Medicare is growing at an unsustainable rate. It is a trust fund. It is not a fund that depends on the general treasury for its support. You can't raise taxes unless you raise the Medicare tax to support it. The Medicare trustees say today that the fund will be bankrupt and no benefit will be paid in 9 years, 9 to 11 years, no benefit. There's not anything we can do about it if we don't start addressing it now. So either we do nothing, or we do something, and we try to get the debate started. Now, I would point out that the administration budget had no recommendations at all for Medicare, nothing, not a word. And when asked, why not? Because the debt reduction commission that the administration had established had recommended some Medicare changes. The response from the administration and director of the manager's budget was, don't ask us to stick our chin out first. Well, we've done that. And I'm sure that there's controversy associated with it, but it is a fact-based budget. It's an honest budget. There are no accounting gimmicks in it. And if you don't like it, you have good reason not to like it, because you will at least understand it. And I think that that's a step in the right direction. But remember that budgets they're not law. And now we begin the process of going through the appropriation, completing this process between now and October 1.
young lady in the back row.
Hi, my name is Norma Webster. I'm a resident of Hillborough. And supposedly one of the rationales for going to this voucher system for seniors to buy their own Medicare or medical coverage is so that there'll be competition. And that's supposed to save or slow the rate of growth of healthcare costs. Do we not have a competitive system for purchasing health care through employers now?
would you like me to address that? First of all, it's not, I'll say once again, it's not a voucher system, it is a premium support system. And
Well,
because the federal government
aren't
will
we
provide
buying in a
payments
competitive
directly to-
market?
Pardon me?
Isn't it a competitive market?
Yeah, I'm gonna get to that in a second. Sadly enough, healthcare today is neither competitive nor private. The federal government is the biggest provider of healthcare probably in the world. And because of the way healthcare has grown through the years, or has evolved through the years, it's employer-based, and it's also state-based. There's very little competition. I don't know how many choices you have in the private market right now for healthcare, but it isn't more than a handful. And one of the things that I have supported are two things. One is universal deductibility for healthcare premiums, so that if you're self-employed and doing the same thing that somebody else is doing, who's working for a company, you can get the same access to healthcare that they do. Secondly, to make it possible for associated health plans, that groups of people, regardless of who they work for, can get together in an associated health care plan to get more competition, and that you ought to be able to buy a health care policy just as you do an automobile insurance policy or a homeowner's insurance policy or a life insurance policy from a state that carries it in that state, across any state border. Then you would have a choice of 100 or 200 potentially different types of programs. Now you say, well, pardon me? None of this is in the Ryan bill because the Medicare system doesn't take effect, it doesn't save money at the Ryan bill. The Ryan bill comes up with recommendations, but not the specific legislation. What I'm proposing is quite different, or not different from the Ryan bill, but different from what we're doing now. And the answer to your question, ma'am, is that we really don't have competition in the private sector. That's one of the reasons why healthcare premiums go up so much.
But isn't the reason we have Medicare now because before Medicare was established, seniors couldn't buy health insurance for any price because they needed Medicare and insurers didn't want to touch them?
Well, there's no question about the fact that that paradigm will never occur again because we already have a system in place today that provides subsidies to doctors, which, by the way, are going to become significantly more expensive very quickly. And you know, the idea that anybody has suggested that Medicare will end or be dramatically different than it has been before, I think is wrong. And it's not a voucher, and I hate to be defensive because what we're trying to do is to save this program. And just remember that if you want to save the program, you better do something between now and 2009. And there's one idea out there right now, nothing from the administration yet, nothing from the Senate, and we have a proposal. It's a proposal that only affects people under the age of 55. It provides premium support, which creates competition, and it will, we hope, save the program so it lasts longer than 9 more years.
This gentleman right here.
The subject you're on, right, Eric Spitzbarth, my wife Diane, Hancock. What you're talking about right now is a hot button, and it's solved and over. When you look at what happens, you touched on a few things, and there's probably a long discussion we can have, but I'm going to be really brief. As someone who just turned 62, has no employment at this point, was self-employed for the last 10 years. Yes, I applied to Social Security, but health care is killing us. We need to spend, in our current premiums in major medical, with a $6,000 deductible each, and we're going to be spending over $75,000 in the next 3 years for something that's called insurance.